常州这座城市，我在这里已经住过了30多年。我喜欢一个人开着车，穿行在这个城市中，看着车外高楼大厦和忙碌的人群。我脑海中常会是一个遥远的地方，那就是没有人烟、荒凉的沙漠。我叫陈亚强。80年代前的话，我是做泥瓦匠啊。那时候拍照要用到胶片，也要冲，也要洗，挺烧钱的，条件不够啊。改革开放以后，开过服装店，开过饭馆，做过装修，帮人家盖过房子，后来又做了工艺品。退休了以后，总想重新找回年轻时候的梦想。
Since 2010, Chen Yaqiang has been to the center of the Taklimakan Desert in China's vast western autonomous region of Xinjiang no fewer than 26 times. Hailing from the coastal province of Jiangsu in the heavily populated Yangtze Delta region, the windswept sands of one of his country's remotest corners hold a unique attraction for him.
它是胡杨树的树瘤，通过几千年下来啊，其他的树，包括它的树身啊，什么都腐烂掉了，就留下那个树瘤。
In 2014, Beijing's Today Art Museum hosted an exhibition of Chen Yaqiang's work called A Portrait of Time. In a sense, it marked the completion of his photography trips to the Taklimakan Desert. Yet, in November 2017, he's decided to return there. In addition to taking photographs, he wants to revisit a particularly special spot. Now aged 62, this may well be the last trip he makes to the desolate, forbidding landscape he's come to know so well.
Lão板呢？老板，牛肉面3箱，那个6箱。被子拿10床，不要太好的，再拿1箱酒。我们进去呢，可能有的时候还热闹一下。
This time, Chen Yaqiang has planned a 10-day trip. After arriving in Xinjiang's southwestern city of Hotan, he and his guide immediately set about buying supplies.
堆好了啊。
Situated in South Xinjiang's Tarim Basin, the Taklimakan is China's largest desert. In the region's Uyghur language, Tak means mountain and Limakan means desert. 100 years ago, the British explorer Mark Aurel Stein called it the Sea of Death. He said that people entering the desert would never emerge from it. Setting out from Yutian, the county closest to the desert, Chen Yaqiang travels to the end of a 100-kilometre road and enters the uninhabited zone of the desert's interior. The Keria River, which is fed by melting glaciers of the Kunlun Mountains to the south, flows through this area. The objects Chen Yaqiang wants to photograph are to be found on its other side, in the centre of the desert.
像拍这种树瘤呢，也河东呢几乎很难找，在河西呢我就是能够找得到那种树瘤啊，所以呢一定要过河。
Chen Yaqiang's guide is Jia Zunpang. He's an experienced desert explorer. Over the past 7 years, he's guided Chen on his many desert photography trips. Out here, he's his closest companion.
你和陈师傅等一会儿，我到下面探路，好吧？看看能不能过去，好不好？嗯。
小心啊，你注意点安全。
好。
穿上了过去。其实这里多一多，这里多一多，这里看看能过吧。
好。
Whether or not the river can be forded depends on the firmness of the riverbed. All of Jia Zuanpeng's experience will be needed to find a safe route for the cars.
不行，河床太软了，全是软的。哎呀，今天水比较大，然后那河床软的，我到下面再试一下，好吧？啊，好，嗯。
再找个地方下一
哎，我看从那边过。
还有点吗？
啊，下面那个20公里地方有个点过。
20公里啊，好，我们走。
走吧，不要在这儿冒险。
我们赶紧走，这里不要。
你看这啊，都水流都带沙子的，你看。
再找个点吧。
记得那次我们有的时候，哎，这边走啊，那个夏天的时候河水有多大啊？拦腰的水是吧？
是啊，那都过去了。
我们车管也过去了，对不对？
那我水
那次车也过了啊。反正我是害怕的。
车子我过了20多趟了，你怕什么你？真是的。
Chen Yaqiang has planned a schedule for the expedition. Within the first 2 days, he wants to reach the desert and find desert poplars suitable for shooting. Once he's found them, he will spend 3 days taking photographs. After that, there will be 2 days for him to revisit his special spot. The time left will be spent getting out of the desert. It's already 6 o'clock in the evening. To reach the ancient poplar forest in the desert center tomorrow, the party will have to cross the river before sunset today.
哎，那这是车走的印子也有啊。
还得修一下。
哎，这是那个踩一下就行了。这样，踩一踩，哎，
不用踩线吧？
不用。
哦，这样踩。
啊，踩个车辙出来就行了。
那你就先探水去吧。
行。嗯，好。啊，你把踩一踩啊！你把准备好，过来我们车就走。
它有的地方水面河面没有那么宽，但是很深、很急，这样的话呢，那个汽车也过不去。它过不去。
水太大了，过不去了。水太大了，过不去了。啊，早上起水小一点，下午了马上山上的雪水融了，水量越来越大了。下一个点看一看，如果过不了，明天吧，好不好？嗯。
哎，愁死了，这咋办？好。
In the end, the cars are unable to cross the river. Before dark, they'll have to find a spot sheltered from the wind on the riverbank to set up camp.
好像没有流水吧？
我说对羊，63岁，虚岁63。南方人多，车子多。 你的车子比我好啊，我要买一辆比你更好的。今年赚了100万，明年想1000万。这人活的都没有多大意义，都是为了钱活的。这个地方彻底让我变了。
来，没结婚的要往这皮的，1把辣子，1把盐巴，皮的，严了。
皮的啥意思啊？
熟了吗？
熟了。以前宾馆呀，政府那些放大的片子都是你拍的？
都是我拍。王瑶收藏了我一张作品呢，我在金人美术馆办展览，他去了参加，他说这张片子我要收藏，就是像乌龟，太像了。
30 kilometers from the campsite, there's a village. It's also the only inhabited place within a 100-kilometer radius. Chen Yaqiang decides to visit the village to see if he can borrow a pickup truck. Since a pickup is lighter, it will not get stuck in the mud so easily, although its weight will still serve to consolidate the riverbed. After this, a heavier SUV will be able to cross safely.
别，这个我还能扯的。我在家，门没开着。
喂，没事大伙。
Locally, it's the season for harvesting sastage, a desert plant with medicinal properties. The villagers are out labouring in the fields.
11:40，到现在还没有橙子拿到，记得到，到有点着急。
干嘛来了？
马上多长时间？马上，马上就是2个小时、3个小时，马上。什么时候到？也是马上，马上到1点钟也是马上。来了几天了？
By the time that Chen Yaqiang and his guide gets their pickup truck, it's already 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It'll take them more than 1 hour to get to where they can ford the river. Nearly a whole day has passed.
这样的河没过过。
怎么到这里来了？不可能的事情，过不了，下面都是水。
皮干过一趟，来回趟2趟以后嘛，压实以后嘛，我们就可以过呀。
老陈的安全你也得考虑呀。
我们皮干过完以后，我们1个小时后嘛，一点问题没有。你们害怕啥呢？我们几天了，现在不过咋办呢？
With the guide Jia Tuanpeng and the drivers all arguing, it's time for Chen Yaqiang to decide.
我要想这样啊，老贾啊，那个没有把握的事情我们不做，危险。假如出了问题，谁负责任？
我们那个
谁也负不了责任。还有一个，我们整个这个行程的话就取消掉了，就把这一桩事情就把它取消掉了。
没有，
就这样定了吧？不过今天不过，好吧？今天不过，听我的啊！好，行。
With 27 desert expeditions behind him, Chen Yaqiang knows the risk of behaving rashly. Danger can arise at any time. One experience in particular remains fresh in his mind many years after it happened.
这个风沙就是人在外面的话，沙子打在脸上不痛，看过去只有透视力只有1米多，驾驶员也慌的，方向不是正大方向，那是反打方向。小贾一下来，自己找一找路，那时候已经看不到路了，车子走的印子都没有，啊，真吓害。
The group begins to make a detour. To find a dry place in the river and cross over to the other side, they drive for more than 100 kilometers. On a paved highway, this would only take about an hour, but on this desert track, they can only manage 20 kilometers per hour. It's now day 3 in the desert. At around noon, they finally reach the other bank of the river, 1.5 days later than planned. But luckily, Chen Yaqiang finds a forest of desert poplars he shot on a previous expedition.
这棵树我在2012年拍的呢。就这棵呢。这个树要趴下来拍的。我想啊，这棵树可能打在上面。 打着了才烧掉的，木炭边上都有木炭啊，长成这样子。胡杨树它自己会断臂、断头，然后从臂上伸出一个卡子来，它又活了。它实际上还是活着的。
Chen Yaqiang prefers to go to places unvisited by others to take his photos. Although exploring a familiar theme, he tries to find new and distinct perspectives. He always prefers photographing his burls on location. The passage of time, he feels, can only be truly depicted with a picture shot on the spot.
也问起那个东西怎么拍的，我用黑布啊，黑布把这多余的东西全部扎起来。大自然给了我们丰富的东西，当时来讲，我就想，怎么那么相像的东西能够在沙漠里能够呈现出来？胡杨有个说法就是活1000年，死了以后树在那边1000年，倒了以后不朽1000年。我发觉个树瘤它的木质密度比较高，我估计那个树瘤不是1000年的概念。不光是看到它的时间，也看到这个胡杨的精神，生存在这种恶劣的环境当中，他还能通过几千年的风华，还能呈现给我们的面前。
With the fierce desert sun overhead, the temperature in the temporary photo studio has reached over 40 degrees Celsius, and Chen Yaqiang has been shooting the entire afternoon. In the evening, Chen Yaqiang and his guide discuss the task of finding a particular desert poplar that has special significance to Chen. This is the expedition's special goal, and all his trips here in the past 7 years have been more or less related to this particular tree. In the vast expanse of sand, however, finding it will not be easy.
老陈啊，火架好了，我们吃点东西，准备走吧。
这头，
这头上，
这小陈去拿个血压仪拿的来，在那个，不是可能。
哎呦，有点烫呀。
好烫呀。
啊。
By the morning, Chen Yaqiang is feeling distinctly unwell.
一个160的96。躺一会儿，躺一会儿。
不要紧的。啊，
躺一会儿，躺一会儿。
都起来了还有。
In spite of his high blood pressure, Chen Yaqiang insists they continue with the journey. But he's feeling dizzy and weak. Worried about his safety, his guide Jia Tuinpeng advises him not to take the risk. Reluctantly, Chen returns to his tent to take medicine and rest.
人们说我拍出了不一样的胡杨，其实我觉得是胡杨拯救了现在的我。我拍了1000年的胡杨，对于我来说，这一次还有一件比拍摄更重要的事情。这也许是我最后一次进塔克拉玛干沙漠，我要和我拍摄过的胡杨林做一次告别。
By noon, Chen's blood pressure has dropped back to normal, so they all set off again.
加油，加油，加油！你怎么那么笨啊你？
看一下这边要栽到里头。
不要看了，谁下？小陈，出不来了，出不来了。
As the saying goes, drive quickly on sand, but slowly in water. After the driver brakes hard when crossing a sand ridge, the car gets stuck.
树杈哪儿有啊？倒有点难找啊。我去找找看啊。
Not far away, there's a forest of desert poplars. Given his experience, Chen Yaqiang knows how to use the trees to get the party out of its current scrape.
你那边后面好了，前面要不，你前面还要拔的，不要太长，垫垫好。哦，加把劲，来，1、2、3，对。
For the next 2 days, the party searches for the forest eastwards along the river. Not far away from the forest, however, the car gets stuck in the sand again.
这个车子要加鞋在里面，危险防身的，
这让它滑下来。
这是严重了。你假如手扒的话，那个沙子下来越扒越低，证明越低就要翻掉了，是吧？
In such a remote area, there's no mobile phone coverage. The only solution is for Jia Tuanpeng to drive the supply car out and look for help.
行，
好，行，快一点啊！
好，
快一点。我想一个人在沙漠中走走，我按压快门的那一刹那，就能记录下时光雕刻出的千年。这事儿对我来说，其实挺风光的。
The next day, to their surprise, Jia returns with a motorcycle. In the desert, this is the most convenient form of transport. Chen Yaqiang can now return to his ultimate goal of finding the individual desert poplar tree that has so impressed him in the past. He remembers clearly how this tree overwhelmed him when he first encountered it. It had survived in the hostile environment, unchanged through the ages, amid great upheaval in the world outside. Chen Yaqiang believes that not only his photography, but also his understanding of life has been changed by this particular tree. By seeing it again, he will be fulfilling his pilgrimage.
我想象到后来也是就是一个疯子，想一个地方连跑了7年，跑了几10趟，也真的像疯的一样了。他们说的对的，真疯子一个，不疯哪来的作品呢？